come by and check out what's going on. But we also get people that just come here to see, their favorite band, or, maybe they'll come for a night of music. So it's really, it really depends on what people are looking for, on any given night.
John Brehm. I'm a book hustler. And I used to be a guitar builder in town since about 1970. I had a Broadway guitar shop in Cambridge Finer Instruments on Broadway. And I worked for the Music Emporium, and I put on a lot of shows when I first got into town. I got stuck here. It's my excuse. I just want my $125 Harvard Square apartment back, or I would never come here. That's the truth.
Right.
What happened is that the baby boomers, the people who are my age, a little older, a little younger, they basically pulled a fast one on everybody. They sold out their values, and they decided that, well, yeah, we still want to dress up, and we still want to be thought of as kind of groovy, cool, and happening people. We still want to be liked. We don't want to lose all of our friends, but we want a piece of our rock, goddammit. And they wouldn't work for that rock. What they did was they bought cheap, and now they sell it high. That's all they did. They came in, and they bought distressed and neglected properties, because rent control did contribute to that to a certain extent. People didn't do all the upkeep because there really wasn't much incentive for them to do it. They couldn't, as a small landlord or something. So they let the buildings go. The buildings flew out of, into strangers' hands overnight, perpetually for a decade or two. That's all those places have been eaten up entirely now. It didn't start in Central Square at all. That's part of the reason I think I'm in Central Square, is because it is, in a way, the last vestige of Cambridge. What happened in the early 70s, and even before, if you think about it, but especially by the late 70s and when Reagan came in, is that they were gun-ho to the phenomena of condominialization, which condos didn't used to exist, before the late 70s, really. And you had them gentrifying Harvard Square. It's like, well, we want to get rid of the street trash. Wouldn't you like to see these buildings taken care of? Wouldn't you like some better clientele around here? And people fell for it. And then you've got this kind of antiseptic tourist parade that goes through there all the time. Then they went up to Porter Square, and
Right.
they gentrified that area. And Kendall Square was always kind of like a backlot, industrial backlot.
Mm-hmm.
For machine companies and glass companies and things like that, and people thought, well, that might be a good new cheap neighborhood someday, but MIT scoffed that up immediately and didn't even have to gentrify it, just sort of bought it all up, and it doesn't really look that different or cleaned up from what it used to be. But and what happened is all the social services, when they got kicked out of Inman Square and Harvard Square and these other places, they all got squeezed into Central Square. And so people started saying, well, there's really a lot of Zadies down here. But it wasn't really the story. This is more salt of the earth, more blue-collar, working-class neighborhood compared to a lot of the other squares. But it wasn't, everybody got the squeeze put on them. So what you're seeing is like, I think,
The aftermath.
The way aftermath. I think every place that people value on some sort of ephemeral level, I think there's some yuppie up there who's willing to turn that into a cash cow as quickly as they possibly can. And one way they can always keep that going is by turning every place into any place or no place. In other words, keeping the hotel, forget about the neighborhood, forget about continuity, run every place like a hotel to the highest bidder. And that's what they do in quick order. That's the way this area runs.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got sufficient credit cards, and if you have a lot of money in the bank, you can get any apartment you want in this town. Meanwhile, the color line has gone down ever so slightly, but now there's also more stipulations against, if you're a dog owner, you could be a bad person. If you have a cat, you don't know if we want you. If you're a smoker, no, not here. You know what I mean? If you do anything else, if you're an artist or if you're a craftsman or something like that, God, you better not have anything noxious or anything that's there's a new kind of unspoken kind of new hierarchy of convenience that is simply based on the dollar, and it's kind of like that's where we all take our cues. And so if you're depressed, I don't mean to depress you more,
No,
but that's I think the basis that we all share. You know what I mean? Of our kind of what to do, where to go, how to get oneself over, or how to live something of a happy personal life, etc. etc. It's all wrapped up in that stuff, because the first thing you need is you need a place. If you don't have a place, you're stuck in a, like, I mean, you could have a good roommate situation, or you could have a bad one. I think the bad ones are more common than the good ones, because people are squeezed together. They're all growing up at their different rates. They're all coming to their own epiphanies, their own realizations on their own schedules. In a way, you could kind of say, well, people are still growing up in their mid-20s too, because they haven't made all the choice. You know what I mean? They're in a kind of a shifting kind of a period, or a period in their lives where they just haven't made all the. But what I haven't made all their choices yet. What's really sad is to see people inspired by bad roommate situations to become owners, or to get something, or to make more money. So God forbid I should have to live with anybody like that. You know what I mean? Whatever they're thinking. There's nobody without a band.
Right.
If you come see my band, I promise I'll come see your band.
Right.
How's that? No, I'm just kidding. No. But that seems, and none of the bands, when they find bands that are barking up exactly the same tree or doing more or less the same thing, no one coalesces for anybody else, no oneecedes, no one even stops and says, hey, I need to take a lesson from that guy. That guy's got something down that I don't. Because it's just sort of like people have been, with their internet and their computer and their fancy, MTV and fancy television and everything else that affords people to live incredibly insular lives. So people do what they can do, I guess, as easy as possible. Human relations are a lot trickier and a little messier. It's more, blood and guts and, ups and downs. But,